Hello, everybody. Welcome into the NBA front office show. The Pistons get tricky with their salary cap maneuvering. I thought that was really fascinating, the way that all broke down shortly after we finished up our show yesterday. We'll talk a little bit about the Jimmy Butler trade front on today's show. We'll talk about the NBA Cup, which we do have the NBA Cup final tonight. The Thunder taking on the Milwaukee Bucks. I'm excited for that one. And then a change to the AllStar game as well. So lots of stuff to discuss on today's show. If you have not subscribed to the channel yet, please make sure you do subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's free. Click on that subscribe button. And don't forget to follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts as well. My name's Trevor Lane. Guy over there is Keith Smith. Keith, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Yeah. If you guys subscribe to, I recommend to turn on your notifications as well, because we do the live shows. On that note, this week, we're still figuring out this week. We're all, it's holiday week. There's always travel involved and all kinds of, goofy weirdness and all kinds of stuff. And then I'm out of town next week, but we will have our annual Christmas show for you one way or another. This week, where we're gonna get dressed up. I'm gonna spoil something because the chat in the comments have decided we should dress like Santa and an elf.
I saw that.
It's good idea.
Such a good idea.
But not gonna be what happens.
No, I don't have time to get an elf costume.
Yeah, I wish we but see, you guys are just more clever than we are. So like
we should have outsourced
we probably would have done that. But
yes.
But yeah, we I know I've got something planned that I know Trevor's gonna like, so I'm excited for that. It's it'll be fun. But we'll let you guys know with that as soon as we firm up plans. It's just a lot going on this time of year with everything, and the kids are getting out of school and all kinds of craziness. But we will get in a live show this week, one day or another. Or one way or another. Yes,
one way, one day.
Yeah, there it is. We'll get all that in there. But yeah, I'm excited. It's kind of quietish right now. We got a couple trades early, and now we're kind of back to normal with things just kind of taking a little while as my phone's going off here, and nothing there. So
it was the season where every notification you're like, could it? No, okay.
Wait, the last report being released, and it's like, I don't care about that.
Yeah.
So I would do want to note too, over on the basketball bulletin, I having a lot of fun over there with the NBA game notes pieces, where I'm putting those out on a near daily basis. I usually take one, if not both days off on the weekends, just to kind of recoup and recharge my brain a little bit with that and work on other basketball related stuff. But game notes are up from last night. We had 3 really fun games that came right down to the wire. I'm putting a lot of clips in there and observations and notes and all sorts of stuff. So check that out as well if you're really interested in a little bit more written work.
That's right. Keith's got a bunch of written work going up there. I've got a bunch of stuff, videos going out on the Basketball Bulletin YouTube channel, a bunch of rumors and stuff like that I sort through over there. So you guys can certainly check that out as well. You put the links in the description down below. But Keith,
let me pump one more thing. Sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
One more thing. Our Spot Track NBA trade machine, it's now available as an iOS app too. So if you needed, like, man, I want to make up a fake trade while I'm sitting here waiting at the store for my wife to finish Christmas shopping, or my husband to finish Christmas shopping, if you're one of our female front office fans, go jump in there and you can download the trade machine app. It works the same way as the trade machine does on the web version. You can go in there, make your trades and everything, and then you screenshot it and share it if you want, or do whatever you want with it. I'm not going to say anything bad about anybody else's trade machines, but I can tell you ours is the most accurate when it comes to apron rules and all the trade rules and salary matching and all that stuff there. I did daily get screenshots dropped in my mentions from other places they're not legal trades. And then they're like, this doesn't work on your site. You must have a problem. And then it's like, no. And we've cleaned up a lot of stuff. We put player headshots in there. We added a whole bunch of things to it that we think really clean up the views for folks. And people seem to be enjoying it. So just wanted to put that out there as a little reminder that's there, and you can still use the web version as well.
Yeah, it is a fantastic. I mean, this time of year, Keith, I have been using it a ton. I mean, we use Spot Track here on our show on a daily basis, as I'm now getting updates on my travel plans as we're doing this. So I'm sorry if I look like I'm doing multiple things at once. It's because I am. But we do use Spot Track every single day. And I know when I go in, look, the new CBA, it's very complicated. It's very complex. There's a lot of stuff going on. It's part of the reason why this show exists, why we have jobs, right? But the spot track, I know when I go in that it's not going to tell me a trade is legal that it's not. And that's so important, because if you're going off of the old CBA, a lot of trades that work under the old CBA do not work under the new one. And so I think it's really important that you guys use that as a resource, because it will give you definitively what's legal and what is not.
And if you think something gets through that shouldn't, just send me a note. Send me a note through social media, or you can send it through my email. Put it in the comments here on the channel, and I'll get to it one way or another, and then we'll fix it. We're trying to be pretty responsive. If anybody's wondering, that's what it looks like. That's the little icon there. Oops, we can't really see it now, but it was up there for a brief second, so you'll just have to pause. It just looks like the Spot Track logo, and it says Spot Track Trade Machine. So if you search Spot Track Trade Machine in the App Store, you go Android users. Sorry, it's a whole process with an Android app, and we aren't there. So, but you can still use the web version if you want to do that.
All right, here we go. Let's get into today's topics. By the way, I do need to get going on that app. You told me about it yesterday, and I went, "What? There's an app too?" See, now I know what I'm going to do. When my wife is driving, I'm going to be making trades and things like that. All right, here we go. So the NBA All-Star Game format change. And let's go here, I guess, to try to make this as viewable as we can. So 24 NBA All-Star selections divided evenly into the three 8-player teams. So 3 teams made up of 8 players. 4th team is the Rising Stars champion team. So that's going to be the mini tournament that the All-Star Game format is going to utilize. So your 24 All-Stars, just like normal, they're going to be divided up into 3 teams of 8, and then the 4th team will be the Rising Stars team. There are team general managers, which are great, which are Charles Barkley, Shaq, Kenny Smith, Candace Parker. That's going to be awesome. They will draft their rosters from the pool of 24 players. And then the 2 teams meet in one semifinal game, and the remaining 2 teams meet in the other semifinal game. The winning teams advance to the final. And I think this is key here, Keith. The way that you, whoops. You would think I know how to control this thing by now. The winner of each game is the first team to reach or surpass 40 points. So it is not a full NBA game. That would be pretty, in terms of just the workload put on these players would be a lot if we tried to play 2 full games with 8-player rosters, but you're playing to 40, which I think is a perfect number to allow some strategy, have actually, the best team have a better shot of winning, but then also have it be a much shorter game. And then you move on to the final, which would be later on All-Star Sunday.
Yeah, and my guess is how this is going to look is we're going to see these teams. They'll play the first semifinal. Then the next team will warm up while they're showing highlights and breaking down whatever happened, and probably somewhere in the range of a 20-minute warm up or something like that. Then that's when they'll probably pause to do like the concert that they traditionally do All-Star Sunday at halftime. That will probably be halftime, and then we'll come back and play the final between the 2 teams. So it's going to be fun. I quite frankly, fine. Right? Try something new. It wasn't working. Nobody really seemed to like it the way it was. So let's see what this looks like with this little mini tournament. I think, to your point, 40 points keeps it short enough that guys may actually play kind of hard. And no one's going to want to lose to the Rising Stars team. Right, like that's going to definitely be a thing we're going to see. No veteran team of All-Stars is going to want to lose to the Rising Stars up and comers, because that will be a major issue. So I think we're going to see it. Be kind of fun. The draft part, I mean, sure, I guess that'll be okay. We'll see what that looks like when they do that. I want to know how the coaches are going to work. Like, who's, like, they said these guys are the general managers. I assume we'll have the East-West coach and then a third coach or something. I guess. I don't really know how we're gonna, figure all that stuff out there, but they'll I'm sure they've got some plan for it that'll come down at some point. But yeah, I think, hey, this is worth trying, see what it looks like, and see if guys will actually go out there and play kind of hard. Because 40 points for All-Stars, you're talking what, maybe 20 minutes of gameplay. at most, probably is what it'll take to get there, depending on how locked in defensively teams are. So it shouldn't be too bad.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So again, as somebody who has been very negative over the last few years towards the All-Star game, at least they're trying something. At least they're trying something. I don't know if this will be the long-term solution or if this will just be another gimmick that gives us a 1 or 2 year spike in increased. I mean, let's face it, it's interest
Sure.
from the players' side of things in the
Yep.
All-Star game. We'll see if it works or not. Keith, now I am, at least to some degree, I don't, regret is too strong of a word because I'm looking forward to it, but I planned a vacation during the All-Star break because I don't focus on the All-Star break much. I don't care about seeing the All-Star game all that much. And now I'm like, maybe I'll have to try to figure out a way to watch the All-Star game from the cruise ship there.
Yeah, I'm going on mine next week, so I'll be out of here this time a week from now. I'll be gone. Well, in a few days I'll be gone. But we are I'm excited to watch this on All-Star Sunday part of it, because for me it was like, all right, I'll watch a little bit on the Friday with the Rising Stars Challenge. Then I still love All-Star Saturday night.
Oh,
Like I think it's still a blast. And then Sunday rolls around and I'm like, hey, you guys want to watch a movie? Like what TV shows can we catch up on?
Exactly.
And I basically monitor the game as far as making sure like I'm not seeing like hey, player X went down and looks like he's holding his knee or something like that, because that's the worst thing that could possibly happen. So yeah, I really quite frankly have not cared about the game portion of it for years now. I liked it the first year they did the draft part of it. I thought it was fun. Like we had the moment where Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown were going head to head with each other. Like that was fun because we don't get to see that ever in a game. So that was kind of fun. And then, but beyond those minor things, it's like, all right, I don't really care. So this change, sure, I'm willing to go in and give it a shot.
Yeah, I'll go into it with an open mind and honestly probably a drink in hand because I'll be on vacation during it. Maybe that will make it all that much better. All right, let's go here. The NBA Cup semifinals could move to home arenas. I think this would be a good change. Keith, I don't. Did we talk about it in person or on the show? At this point, it's all
we
blurring
talked
together.
about it on the show.
And we talked about it on the show. So
yeah,
the idea that one of the problems was that with the NBA Cup, when we look at the response, the reaction from the crowd during the games that we saw in the semifinal, was that fans weren't given enough time, fans of those teams, to get themselves to Las Vegas. So Bucks fans, Rockets fans, Thunder fans, they didn't have enough time to get themselves to Vegas to go and support their team. Whereas if you put this in home markets, then you don't have to deal with that situation. And I still think there should be a gap then to allow those fans. That's going to maybe alleviate some of the issue where people complained the crowd was kind of dead during the semifinal games. If you can allow time for those fans of those teams to flock to Vegas to go see those games, that will make, I think, a big, big difference.
Yeah, I completely agree. If we do like a week in between the finals, or more, even if they can do that, like that's great, because then you have enough time. It's kind of almost like, I am not making this the equivalent to the importance of the Super Bowl, but it's like that in the sense of the Super Bowl is played at a neutral site, and people have 2 weeks to figure out, all right, I want to go and get there and figure out how to get there. And as someone who's been
over the cash,
I've actually been to Super Bowl, and it was an experience. It was pretty cool to be there, and so we'll see what that looks like. But yeah, I kind of think about this as it's a little like the conference tournaments and leading up to the NCAA tournament. The ones that are played at home arenas, just people are going crazy. They're having a blast. They're doing all kinds of stuff, and going nuts. So I think it's it's a lot of fun, with that. So I think let's kind of get it to a place where that's kind of where we're going with this, and then we just keep tweaking it and adjusting it until it feels right and whatever. They released, for anybody who really cares, the attendance was up a little bit for the first semifinal over last year's. It's important to remember too, it was played on the weekend. I think last year was like a Tuesday afternoon or something, so of course it was going to be a little weird. And then the attendance for the second semifinal was down a little because we had the Lakers were in it last year, so clearly they were snapped up all the tickets, but they were all within range. They were all within like 1,000 seats sold or whatever. So we'll see what tonight looks like with the Bucks Thunder. I'm really excited. What's your pick for tonight?
So I am, now that my pick, the Rockets, are out, I am all in on the Thunder. I think the Thunder get it done. And I think there's a fair question on their defense is great, but a lot of their defense is predicated on keeping teams on the perimeter and not letting them get into the paint. Now, Isaiah Hartenstein has certainly helped there, but who defends Giannis? That's going to be a challenge. And we talked about this yesterday. That's certainly a big question for the Thunder to try to answer. But ultimately, I just think the Thunder, I mean, look, the Bucks, what's their, I don't want to call it an Achilles heel, but one of their biggest weaknesses is that they're an older team. They're a slower team. And the Thunder are the exact opposite of that. They're an extremely fast, extremely aggressive team, very young team that really make life difficult on you with the way they play defense. I think that's going to be the difference maker in this game. May not be a pretty game, but the Thunder do some great things defensively. So I look OKC as a 4.5-point favorite. I think OKC gets the job done tonight and they win the NBA Cup this year.
Yeah, OKC, to your point, they're 9th in pace. The Bucks are 17th, so they're the Bucks more lower middle half, and the Thunder in the top third there in pace. But yeah, well, we'll see what it looks like. But the Bucks, I know a lot of people are like, is Milwaukee really good? Like, they've started playing a lot better. They've played really well to get to this point. It's worth reminding too, because this question got asked a couple times. This game doesn't count in the standings. This is truly just the NBA Cup final. So there's no the ones that counted for the standings. Those are all done now. We're back to normal, and then no games on the 18th. If you're watching this on Tuesday, no games on Wednesday. There's a couple reasons for that. One, it was to work around the Cup, make sure nobody ended up on a back-to-back. It's also building availability comes into issue with this, and a lot of arenas. They have Christmas concerts and stuff going on during this time of year too. That is one of the challenges that's called out. I believe it was Tim Bontemps talked about it with the home arenas. You're asking now these 30 arenas, hey, hold a extra day. Where you could have this semifinal in there. And then if you don't, it's going to be way too late to put something in there instead. So that's going to be tricky. They're going to have to figure out how to work that. And it's, I've done research on this. Only 9 NBA teams own and directly control the arena themselves. Another like 15, or I should say 15, 16 total are like the primary tenant. But it's, primary tenant is different from owning and controlling the arena. So
sure,
it's just, so it's something to figure out and work around, but the league will figure it out. I'm not too worried about it.
The logistics guys will do their logistics stuff and find out. I have no idea. You know what, Keith? I know there have been stories on it, but that'd be a fascinating process to see. Maybe mind numbing to see how they actually create this schedule for
it's
all
a lot
30
of
teams.
work. Yep.
It's, I mean, there's because it's that you would think it's just, you just make the schedule, but like a computer program can make the schedule for you and make sure that each team plays a certain number of times and all that kind of stuff. But then trying to make the dates actually fit in with all the concerts and stuff that you were talking about. Oh my gosh, what a Herculean task that is.
Yeah, there's a really good article. It's about the Major League Baseball schedule makers. For years and years and years, it was a husband and wife who did it by hand for Major League Baseball, and teams could submit. I might have my numbers off, but it was something like 20, 25, 30 dates. Like, we either do want a game or don't want a game on these dates, around these dates, for whatever. And then they would sit down and plug there's actually, I think, a 30 for 30 about this.
Really?
Maybe it's a 30 for 30 short. Yeah, it's about Major League Baseball, but it's a lot of the same things. I actually have a friend who he doesn't do it anymore, but he used to work in the arena logistics like for the NBA itself. And he was like, yeah, it's a complete nightmare. He's like, he's like, they were so excited when Ballmer was like, hey, I'm going to build my own arena and it's going to be the Clippers primary tenant. Because like Clippers were third on the list for crypto,
Right.
but when it was Staples, they were third on the list for that arena because in reality they were more like fifth sometimes because they'd be like, oh, we can get a concert in. Hey, Clippers, can you play at 9:30 in the morning on a Wednesday? Great, that's when you're gonna play. It was
they were behind the Lakers, the Kings, Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe if Blues Traveler comes into town, they're probably even bumping the Clippers in LA. So now finally they've got their own arena and they don't have to worry about that stuff anymore.
And the league was excited because that eliminated. Remember, for years the Clippers very famously played a ton of afternoon matinee games in the league. They like some of those, but it was like, I don't know, plugging the Clippers in on Saturday or Sunday afternoon all the time. And now those are pretty much gone. They're basically playing all their games at night now. So, but yeah, so that's, now we've successfully bored most of the people to tears with this. Do we want to get into some really nerdy salary cap minutia?
Let's do it. Keith, I thought this was fast and it's such a smart move on the part of the Pistons, the way they handled the whole Paul Reed situation. You broke it down wonderfully. I'm going to let you start talking about it. I'm going to go find your tweet that breaks it all down so I can show that to everybody.
Yeah, so I'll give the basics while you find that. Here's the situation. What happened? The Pistons over the weekend, it came out, they were waiving Paul Reed. Everybody's kind of like, oh, what's going on here? Like, why are the Pistons doing this? As part of that, the Pistons fell below the salary floor. And when you fall below the salary floor, as we talked about on yesterday's show, if you don't get back over the salary floor within 1 day, you lose out on your share of the luxury tax money. So that becomes a major issue. So they signed Javonte McCoy, and it looked like for a little bit, right, that's it, right? They're going to move forward. Well, not so fast. On Monday, they waived Javonte McCoy, and then there was a period of I was actually out and about while this was all playing out in real time. It looked like there was a period of maybe like 45 minutes to an hour. It was like, well, I guess the Pistons are going to have to do another move. Well, that other move was re-signing Paul Reed. And a lot of people are like, I don't get this. Like, why would you do it this way? Well, I broke it down. Here's basically what happened.
Here it is. You've done a lot of tweeting. Sorry, I had a lot of tweets to dig through.
Yeah.
You did a lot of tweeting over the last
it was a lot of sharing pieces,
20 hours,
articles and stuff. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. All right. So Detroit didn't want Paul Reed at $7.7 million because the per day charge was eating into potential cap space. So they waive him. They get Paul Reed off on the bigger salary. They eat about $2.5 million in dead money, but dropping from 7.7 to 2.5 took them below the salary floor. They signed Javonte McCoy to get back to the salary floor. McCoy should get 4 days of salary. That should work out. And let's be very fair to this, too. These, other than like Paul Reed's initial salary and the like, these are all estimates because we don't know just yet, but we'll get them. But should be about $32,600 in dead money for McCoy. He'll get 4 days salary. All Javonte McCoy did was sign a couple documents, right? They sent it over. My guess is through Acrobat there, and it was like, all right, done. Sign it virtually, and off we go.
Here's your money.
Now Javonte McCoy gets waived. They're back under there, so they bring Paul Reed back at $1.4 million, which is the prorated veteran minimum amount. So now Paul Reed. They took Paul Reed because he still gets his dead money at $2.5 million. He gets his new money at $1.4 million. He's going to land at about $3.9 million instead of $7.7 million. So now the Pistons have gone from $10.5 million in cap space to roughly $14 million in cap space with this cap maneuvering. Some people called out like the one that made me laugh the most was like, is this fair to Javonte McCoy? Like, he just signed and got waived? Yeah, it's very fair. For signing his name a couple times, he got $33,000. Like, he's pretty happy right now. That's a nice little Christmas bonus for him with that. So,
it's not Keith Van Horn levels of you're going to pay me how many millions to not
to be in a sign and trade?
To be in a sign and trade, but it's, it's pretty good. Pretty good money
100%.
for sign your name a couple times.
Yeah. Is it fair to Paul Reed? All right, we can talk about that a little bit more. Paul Reed was set to make 7.7 million, but here's the thing. That was non-guaranteed. He had only guaranteed for, as we called out earlier, about 2.5 million. The Pistons could have just waived him and said, "See you later, Paul Reed. Catch on somewhere else." No one else claimed him off waivers, so that gives you a good sense of nobody wanted Paul Reed for 7.7 million this year, that's a little rich
Sure.
for what Paul Reed is as a third center on any kind of good team. So the Pistons bring him back because they need some front court depth and they presumably like Paul Reed. So bring him back and they just lowered his number. Is it fair? It's not unfair. He signed a deal that had non-guaranteed salary in it. And if we remember, he was on that weird offer sheet that Utah had signed him to, where Danny Ainge put the conditions of if Philadelphia, because that's who matched it initially, makes the second round, then Paul Reed triggers the contract triggers is fully guaranteed or makes it out of the second round, I think it was. And then that didn't happen. Philly waived him. Pistons claimed him with cap space last summer, and they inherit that. It doesn't still stay Philadelphia. It flipped over to the Pistons at that point because whatever team he was on. So that contract was, I can say with all confidence, Pistons weren't making the second round this year or next. So that was never going to really land out to be fully guaranteed. So Paul Reed was always destined to be waived, but now he gets the 1.4 million in new money, that he wouldn't have gotten otherwise. And he could have been sitting around today being like, well, I don't have a job. Who's interested in signing me? Right. And waiting until something came up and popped open. Instead, he's back. Yeah. 3.9 million, but that's 3.9 million that he's going to get, if not all of it, most of it returned to him. And then for Detroit, why do you want to get to 14 million? One, you always just want to have more cap space than less, especially at this time of year when you're the only team with cap space. But the important thing is the Pistons can now, anybody else who had we're trying to get off a $13 million player, no one else can raise their hand and say, we'll take them. Just give us a second round pick. I shouldn't say no one. There's a couple teams with big enough trade exceptions, but they're not gonna, because those teams are close to the luxury tax or the apron or whatever it may be. So Detroit's like, hey, we'll eat your, as I jokingly say all the time, bring us your tired, you're hungry, you're poor, you're huddled masses with a second round draft pick, and we're happy to go.
America's team is what you're saying. That's what
pretty much
the Detroit Pistons are here.
Well, they wear that statue. Remember, they used to wear that Statue of Liberty kind of colored, uniform every once in a while. The old tealish green color. So yeah, maybe it was all leading to this. But yeah, so weird situation, odd, nifty little piece of work by the Pistons. Really smart cap management to kind of get here with this. So it is and gainfully for me keeps me employed because I get to explain things like this.
Well, and this is, we talk about winning in the margins as being such an important thing for NBA front offices to do. This is what it looks like. This is what this looks like. And this could ultimately, maybe that 14 million that they created here, it may not, or that number that they got to, I shouldn't say created because they would have had some regardless, but
sure.
But to get to that 14 million number, it may not end up leading to anything. It may not work out and be something that helps them out, aside from just, paying less for Paul Reed. But it also could, maybe it could create the trade that where they absorb a salary, they get the pick that turns into their next star. And this all leads them down that path. You never know. And that's why you want to open up as many doors as you possibly can. And that's exactly what the Pistons are doing here. So again, just very, very smart. Frankly, I think there are teams out there that would not see this, that would not recognize this possibility and would not do it.
Yeah, I think you're right on that note too. It's going a little bit into the Wayback Machine, but remember the pick the Cleveland Cavaliers got that became the number one pick that turned into Kyrie Irving was for eating Baron Davis's contract and a salary dump from the Clippers. And that's, part of why the Clippers were the Clippers forever because things like that just happen to them. And the Cavs got Kyrie, and Kyrie, big part of them hanging their only banner that they have to date. So, that's why, you want to be in position to do stuff. And now the Pistons are in pretty good position. I will say this, because this question came up, a handful of people like, could they do the Miles Turner or Lauri Markkanen type deal where it turns into, hey, we're going to use that cap space to renegotiate veteran players' contract? They can't. The only reason why is they don't have anybody who's eligible for that on the roster. You have to meet some pretty strict eligibility requirements, which means being on a contract of a certain length, being with the team for so long before you can do that kind of thing. And the Pistons, because they are mostly guys on rookie deals or guys that they just signed this past offseason, they don't have anybody in that position on the roster right now. So they're going to use this one way or another. They keep winning some games. Maybe they're going to use it for, we're not going to use it for a salary dump. We're going to use it to bolster our chances at really making a run here at, a potential spot in the East playoffs via the play-in tournament. Because I'm going to be, nice and say, don't think they get to the top 6. That seems unlikely, but getting into the postseason just in the play-in tournament feels like it would be a win for Detroit at this point, where they're kind of been at, in their growth. Because I take this back to now. This is my all-time craziest stat, or my current favorite crazy stat. Do you know the last time the Pistons won a playoff game?
Oh gosh,
not a series, a game.
A game. It had to have been, because I know, didn't they get swept? It's been a long time. Has it been as far? It hasn't been 20 years, has it?
We're getting close.
Because I'm going all the way back to 2004.
2008 Eastern Conference Finals against the Celtics. The Detroit Pistons won Game 4 of that series to knot that series at 2-2, and they have not won a playoff game since May 26, 2008.
Yeah, that's right. Because they were still good after 2004. They were still good there, but 2008, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
A game. Never mind a series. They've made the playoffs 3 times since then, and they were swept in each one. They made it in 2009. That was kind of the last gasp for that championship level Pistons team. Then they made it in 2016 and they made it in 2019. But in each one of those years, they were swept in the first round. So
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, maybe they would push to really, do something, right? And play meaningful games late into the season. And
sure, I'm
not going to say they're not gonna. They're getting closer. Cade Cunningham's really, really good. He was awesome last night against the Heat. They played I don't want to say they played super well because I don't know if you saw it. They get outscored. I think it was 16-2 over the final 4 minutes of regulation, and then outscored 8-0 at the start of overtime. And then Tim Hardaway Jr. hit 3 3-pointers in a row to give them the lead in overtime. Then they went back and forth, and Cade hit a game winner. But it's
a 9-0 run by himself.
Yeah, yep, that's it. T.H. Shea. I don't know. Maybe he's building up his trade value to go.
You never know. Never. They absorbed that salary, and now they can flip him for positive value. You never know.
Yeah.
Never know.
And this $14 million. This is the rare time when I'm ever going to say this. You can combine the cap space with outgoing salary. So you put that with a $20 million outgoing salary, you got a $34 million player you can bring back. You can't do that with an exception. So Detroit's in the. I don't want to say the driver's seat to make all the trades because they're certainly not. That's still OKC, Houston, and because they've got all the draft picks. But they're in a good spot to kind of go either way, right? They want to add to the roster, right? They can do it easier than some other teams, and if they want to, eat some salary as a facilitator or just in a straight trade, they can certainly do that. So pretty good work by Trajan Langdon in his first full cycle here of an offseason and a trade deadline.
All right, let's jump over here. The Miami Heat have no urgency to trade Jimmy Butler, and that should be their current standing right now, is they shouldn't feel urgency to move him. They certainly believe that there won't be much of a market for him in free agency this summer because there's just not that much cap space out there from any teams that would really be interested in him. Mm-hmm. And so the Miami Heat have to look at it as, well, yeah, I mean, I guess you could leave this summer, but where are you going? Most likely the road is going to have to go through us, even if it's a sign and trade situation. So we're in pretty good shape here. we're not going to move on from Jimmy Butler unless we get the kind of deal that we want. And that's going to be their stance for now, with, of course, the trade deadline slowly approaching on February 6th.
Yeah, you say down the road, and instantly my head's like down the winding road, down the
Oh,
Miami
no.
Heat road. Like, yeah, right. Like that's if anybody watched Agatha,
The Witch's Road.
you would know that's the Witch's
So
Road.
good.
It's super catchy song. Too.
Yes.
Like, that is now going to be in my head for the rest of the day. So anyway.
Mine too. Thank you.
Yeah, the Heat, right? You're like, yeah, there's no reason to rush into a Jimmy Butler trade. This all came out of Shams was on Pat McAfee's show. Again, backed his reporting after the little public display from Bernie Lee, Jimmy Butler's agent, kind of saying like, hey, I never said this to you. Like, what's the deal? Shams was like, hey, I vetted that story. Like, I'm sticking to it. That's Butler wanting to go to the Suns portion. But basically he said like, hey, the Heat are letting teams know we're open to offers, but they're not actively shopping him. They're not feeling any pressure to make a trade. And the Heat still feel confident, hey, we can get something done with Jimmy Butler where he can be here. And they mentioned that Pistons game last night. He was awesome in that game, like really, really good, on both ends. So Jimmy Butler he's not pulling we've seen it before where it's, hey, I want to trade and I'm just going to kind of be out here doing my thing. Like this is more of let me show other teams like, hey, come get me. Like I'm ready to go. He actually had a really funny moment. He had a really nice putback to put the Heat up and he lost his shoe in the middle of the play and just kept playing without a shoe. And then like got this like really nice putback. And then in part because he was having to put his shoe back on, Cade Cunningham recognized it, drove the ball right down the middle on Miami and got a layup. And then that was it. That they ended up, the Heat had a shot at the end, but couldn't take advantage. But yeah, Jimmy Butler's still playing hard. So credit to him.
Yeah. And we'll see where I think he is. I think he's the biggest name out there that's like firmly on the trade market. So we'll see how the market develops for him. Will he wind up with the Golden State Warriors somewhere else? We'll see. But Miami in no rush right now to get anything done. And we'll see if their asking price is met or not there. All right, everybody. We do appreciate you for joining the show. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn on those notifications. And again, go check out the Basketball Bulletin, the YouTube channel, the Substack as well. And the podcast side of the NBA Front Office Show, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. Till next time, everybody. See ya and stay safe.